Skyline Park is Germany's craziest amusement park. And I don't mean that in that they have the craziest rides or the most elaborate theming. I mean this place is pure chaos and pretty much anything goes. Skyline Park is run by a family of showmen who acquired the property back in 1999 and said, what if we could give guests a similar experience that they get at the fairs, but year-round? You just pay one price and ride whatever you want. So what they did is acquire all these attractions that traveled the German fair circuit and gave them a permanent home here. That includes their Booster, Funhouse, Rapids, Log Flume, Dark Ride, Drop Tower, the list goes on and on. Skyline Park is 86 acres of land with lush trees and more than 60 total attractions. This includes 7 roller coasters and multiple thrill rides. Most of these attractions are not themed, and many of them feel as if you could pack them up on a truck tomorrow and send them on to their next location. It's a weird juxtaposition when something might feel temporary, even though it is actually permanent. I had the opportunity to visit Skyline Park for my first time in summer 2024. I did not know much going in, and in some ways it exceeded expectations, but in other ways I was quite shocked at some of the things that I witnessed. And in today's review, I'm going to be telling you all about it so you can know what to expect should you make the visit to Skyline Park. But first things first, Skyline Park is located in the center of southern Germany, about an hour west outside of Munich. It's directly off of the Autobahn, so if you find yourself on this road, you've probably driven past it. After you take the exit, you'll park on the other side of the street and take this tunnel underneath the road to the front entrance, which is rather small and quaint, but it's kind of cool. They built this coaster track going overhead. It's a neat little welcome, and it almost gives the illusion that this place is smaller than it actually is. We paid 42 euros to get into Skyline Park, which is pretty standard for a theme park out there. I think for what you get, the price is more than fair. And my initial impression was I was actually surprised at how much green space they have. A true mix of wide open areas, secluded pathways, and more lively, festive zones. I will say it did feel like not every section was given an equal amount of care. For me, the back corner of the park over by the Starflyer and Log Flume was the nicest. So many attractions, places to eat, and just lounge around. And for the rest of the park, improvement could come in many forms, the simplest being maybe just a bit more attention to maintenance. Replacing upturned bricks, fixing broken fencing, trimming the foliage, etc. We visited another park outside of Munich, Bayern Park, which was also very green, but that park felt impeccably well kept, and it felt like Skyline Park was a notch down from that. That being said, Skyline Park definitely had some charm to it. All these trash cans look like the park's mascot, a lion, which is so cute. You can obviously see where the inspiration came from, a place like Efteling that's been around for a very long time. They kind of pioneered the cute and creative trash cans. We immediately noticed lots of different playground equipment, which growing up in the US, this is one of the fun aspects of visiting German theme parks is that you don't get stuff like this in America, even though a lot of them are European classics. So even as adults, we were having fun with some of this stuff. But it definitely took a little bit to find some of the rides. Most of the big attractions are all the way in the back. So as you're walking along some of these pathways, you might be like, wait, where is everything? Am I supposed to be here? Is this right? Luckily, they have a decent amount of signs, but I'm not gonna lie, there were some moments where I was like, are we in the park still? It almost reminded me more of a state park in that regard, where there's times where you actually don't see any rides at all, which I think can have its pros and cons. When done well, it can be atmospheric, but at other times, then when you stumble upon a ride, it feels kind of random, and more often than not, some of those rides were not given the same attention to detail in terms of presentation or landscaping, with some attractions definitely looking better than others. It's pretty obvious which ones came straight from the fair. Now, I mentioned the park has 7 roller coasters. This includes Sky Dragster, the prototype Mauer Spike coaster, Sky Rider, the only one left of its kind, a gyro flyer from Carapro, Sky Spin, a Mauer Ride spinning coaster, Sky Wheel, a Mauer Ride sky loop. You're noticing a lot of rides here start with Sky. That even extends outside of the roller coasters. The booster is called Sky Circle, the slingshot is Sky Shot, Sky Rafting for the rapids. It just goes on and on. But the other thing you probably picked up on is there are a lot of roller coasters here by Mauer. Mauer is actually a Munich-based company, so it makes sense that like one of Munich's closest theme parks was where they were able to get their start building some of these prototypes. Sky Wheel was the first ever sky loop, and now we've seen a couple of those built all around the world. This one in particular opened up in 2004. That is the biggest roller coaster in the park. It goes around twice and can be a hit or miss with audiences depending on what you're into. To me, it feels like a ride that is intended to be a supporting coaster in part of a larger lineup. In my opinion, Skyline Park does not have a big signature roller coaster. A couple years ago, they had announced that they were getting Germany's tallest roller coaster, which was this big hyper from Gerstlauer, so imagine something like Carnival at Hansa Park. And for one reason or another, it just never happened. And from what I understand, the project is completely dead, which is sad because that would give the park the headliner they deserve. Like, I think about a place like Linnanmäki. For a while, their signature roller coaster was also a Mauer Skyloop. But now that they have Taiga, that is the definitive number one in the park, where their Skyloop is now a supporter. So that's the same kind of situation that I think Skyline Park is currently in. But with the way they're operated, where they just kind of acquire rides here and there from the fairs, I don't know that we'll ever get that big signature coaster. Much of their attraction lineup seems to lean more towards quantity than quality. I found most rides were kind of a one and done. There wasn't as much repeatability. Not everyone will love their largest coaster here. Their spinning coaster was probably one of my least favorites by Mauer. It was very rough. Sky Dragster was fine. It gave some decent airtime over those hills, but ultimately this was the prototype that paved the way for much better spike coasters down the line, including Bolt, the Ultimate Sea Coaster. That's on the Carnival cruise ships. I much preferred those versions. You're staring almost 200 feet down at the waterline. I've done 2 of them now. I'm doing a third on the Carnival Celebration in January. It's on this big coaster enthusiast event called the Coaster Cruise. Our next one is January 11th through the 18th out of Miami, Florida. This is a great way to get a super unique coaster credit and meet a bunch of cool people. All week long, we play games and get to know each other on a personal level, and it is a ton of fun. Please go to coastercruise.com if that interests you. There's more information there. We would love to have you. Now back at Skyline Park, what's interesting is their most recent roller coasters have all been built by SBF Visa. This includes the classic figure 8 layout. Just last year, SBF put up one of their family launch coasters just under 1,000 feet long. If that was all, I'd say that's a fine addition here, except it came 1 year after they had already built a little family launch coaster from SBF Visa. 2 in back-to-back years was a choice, but regardless, at least the owners are investing in the park. They certainly have no shortage of land. In fact, I think they could be making better use of some of that land. When you come here to Skyline Park, if you get here at open, I would actually recommend going straight to Sky Dragster, as that was definitely the lowest capacity ride in the park. Each vehicle can only hold up to 2 riders. Sometimes it's just 1 person at a time. So that can definitely get a bit of a wait, as well as Sky Rider. That can only hold up to 4 people at a time. And that was a pretty interesting ride. I'd never done anything quite like it before. Riders ascend up a vertical lift hill and then glide along the single pipe track, rocking back and forth and rotating throughout this gradual downhill course. It was pretty neat. One of those must-dos if you come here, and I think that is something that I will at least give Skyline Park credit for. Some of the attractions they have are very unconventional. That makes this a very quirky place to visit and somewhere that stands out against the already impressive lineup of German theme parks. I like to think of this place as like their country's version of Knoebels in a way. Both parks feature a lot of attractions plopped down in the trees. The biggest difference is I don't question the safety at Knoebels. And I'm not gonna lie, the leniency at Skyline Park was alarming, especially for someone from the US. It might not be as crazy if you're used to German fairs, but for someone like me, it appeared like things were a little too nonchalant. We witnessed multiple employees smoking on the job. On Skyrider, the operators were crossing under the track, pushing vehicles while another vehicle is in motion, and guests are standing on the platform, which at least here in the US, you're not supposed to do. And on that same ride, without failure every time, the vehicle would hit nearby bushes and trees as you're spinning around. Like if you put your arm out, you're definitely hitting a bush. Ride ops will just cross the track whenever they want. You'll just find bags scattered everywhere all around the rides. I know for me personally, that made me kind of nervous that someone might steal something. On a ride like the Log Flume, guests are just sticking their arms in the trough, splashing the queue, splashing other riders. People are riding shirtless, standing up on parts. None of the employees seem to care. It's like the guests will just do whatever they want and the employees are completely fine with that. One aspect that for sure added to the madness was we were at the park during school group season, and oftentimes that's when you get the most unruly guests. The park was packed with kids until around 2:30, and then they all left. After that, it was quiet. We walked onto everything, so a very different feel the first half of the day versus the second. So I can imagine that maybe when it's not school group season, things are a little less chaotic, but I still stand by that level of professionalism that you get at most theme parks is not found at Skyline Park. This is a fair without actually being a fair, or at least a step below one. There's definitely a stereotype that comes with the word fair or carnival. Sometimes that includes words like dirty or kitschy, flashy, or disorganized. And those are traits that I do not think belong with Skyline Park. I consider this park better looking than many that we have here in the US. And if there's another thing they do well, I would say it's efficiency. All the lines moved fast. The team members were keeping a good pace. I mentioned earlier that we had some longer lines in the morning. We waited like 20 to 30 minutes for Skyrider, and that wasn't because of slow dispatches. That's just the low capacity design of the vehicle. Almost every ride that I experienced, I had a fun time on. We did a 490-foot tall Starflyer, which was insane. It was great to see a Husk Condor in this park. Those are getting more and more rare. They even have a slingshot that is included with admission, which you never see. And as wild as it was watching everyone misbehaving on the log flume, the ride experience was very fun. That thing is huge. Lots of fun tricks to it too. Just don't expect much from the interior theming. The Ghost Train, however, was a little better. Certainly plenty of black tarps to be seen, but this was a multi-level attraction that came over from Oktoberfest, so it has indoor and outdoor elements. There's a couple simple animatronic figures in there that I did not expect, but don't be deceived, the exterior, to no one's surprise, is more elaborate than the inside. And if maybe you're seeking a more relaxing experience, there is still plenty to do, like a little petting zoo, paddle boats, or just relaxing on a patio looking out over the water. And it's attraction diversity like that really helps balance out your day. It brings a great change of pace from the chaos you get over the roller coasters. So overall, I would recommend visiting Skyline Park for someone who's in the area and likes going to theme parks. It's a very different vibe than everywhere else, and that's worth something. So let me know down in the comments below if you've experienced Skyline Park in Germany, if you agree with the points that I brought up, if you think there's anything I missed, be sure to post that down below, and stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.